I went, what? Welcome to Evolving Ideas. I'm Elaine Smitha, and I have with me Janet Coley, who is a very interesting individual who has done some fascinating research on people who've had near-death experiences and also have had alien encounters. And now, don't you go and get scared now just because I'm saying alien, okay? You hang in here with me, and we'll learn a lot about this. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome to Evolving Ideas. I'm Elaine Smitha, and I have with me Janet Coley, who is a psychologist, and she has some very interesting research, most unusual research. I've not met anyone before who's done this kind of thing, and to the degree that she has, and I think it's going to be really very interesting, about UFOs and alien encounters and near-death experiences. And I think all those things are going to be really very interesting for us to learn about. And since we are about evolving ideas, it certainly is on the front edge of where we're heading. So join me in welcoming Janet Coley. Thanks, Janet, for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I haven't seen you for a while, and you've been up to all kinds of tricks since I saw you the last time.
I have indeed.
So you are a psychologist and a mental health counselor.
Mental health counselor, yes.
And what brought you to investigate these models of behavior that you're researching, this alien encounters? I mean, I only know a couple people who've had that experience, but near-death experience seems a lot of people have had that. How did you find the combination? How did this research come about that you even got involved with it in the first place?
Okay. Well, I first should say, if you have before only met two people that have had alien encounters, now
well, that I know of,
that you know of.
that they have vocalized this.
Yes. Now you've met three. I have had encounters myself. I don't ordinarily begin by saying that, but I am being particularly bold right now, and I will say that. I did not initially when I started my research in this area, but I think it's a matter of when you hang out with people that do, I think it increases your chances of having encounters yourself. And that's something I haven't done a study on, but I just say that from personal experience. So now I did do doctoral research in this area, but my interest goes back more than 20 years. 20 years ago, my partner, Thomas Beck, Dr. Beck, and I first read our case study, the first full case study in UFOlogy, and that was the case of Betty Andreasson Lucca. And that's one of the most famous cases in UFOlogy. And what struck us about that case is that Betty Andreasson so obviously had what you can call a mystical experience on a UFO.
Okay, so tell the story
Oh,
so that
okay.
my viewers
Well,
have an understanding where we are. We have to start someplace.
Okay. Well, the mystical experience, that's an ineffable experience. And when they did the hypnotic regressions with Betty Andreasson, she actually relived the experience. And when we read the transcript, that was very obvious. So in other words, you go into a place of oneness with the universe, and that was facilitated by the beings. Now my partner and I, we read this, we thought it was authentic, but at that point, 20 years ago, we were not yet in psychology, so we did not yet really think we could ever get close to people like this. So it's been a long road that included my doctoral studies to bring me to the point where I could actually interview and do research based on Ken Ring's research with near-death experiencers and people that have had close encounters. So I'm looking at people now that have had both. Ken Ring is one of the foremost near-death researchers, and he's one of the initiators of the whole field of near-death studies. I was lucky enough to have him on my doctoral committee, and he did the landmark study 10 years ago. So I'm taking you 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and now we're in the present. So it's been a long road.
Isn't Phyllis Atwater involved with this as well?
She's in the field of near-death studies, yes. And in fact, one of her, the next book, I just met her at the recent conference I spoke at, I presented at, along with her at the International Association of Near-Death Studies.
Yeah, I've met her before.
Oh, okay, wonderful, a fascinating woman, and she herself has had 3 near-death. Her next book will be on people that have had near-death encounters that believe they're from someplace else. So our fields are right now overlapping. So she was very interested in my work, and I'm very interested in hers.
I would think so. That's why, it came up for me there.
I'm going to jump out of my seat at this point. She had, at the time...
I hope not. We need you to stay here, Janet.
Okay. Well, she's interviewed thousands of people, and the overlap of UFO and near-death is believed to be relatively small. So when I started my research, which was only about 5 months ago, I now have 20 people in my study.
Really?
Really, and I think it's just a matter of the time is right for this to come out. So she has mention of a few cases in her books, and so I'm bringing this out because I'm coming at it from UFOlogy more, you see. So while there's some interlap, I definitely come from it with a expertise and a bias, I must say.
So what was your experience?
Oh gosh, okay, now we're left branch in the fork. Well, let's see. I've had a number of them. I don't call myself an alien abductee. In fact, I don't call these experiencers abductees because that's sort of a framework that already predisposes people to think about it in a certain way. Abductee is negative, it's against their will. My experience was, first of all, my partner and I have had a sighting on the Oregon coast where we believe we called down. We don't know it was a structured craft because it didn't get that close, but we did a meditation on the beach, and my partner had trained with Dr. Stephen Greer.
I was just going to say about Stephen Greer. It sounds like Stephen stuff.
Oh, sure, and you learn how to do a meditation, and I mean any meditation I think will facilitate, because what you're doing is you're entering a different state of consciousness that is more akin to theirs than our normal thinking mind in the alpha state. Okay, so we did that on the Oregon coast.
So you think it is the alpha state that you're entering?
Oh no. Our normal
I know, but when you're making the access, when you're accessing that, are you accessing it through alpha, or are you accessing it through theta?
Theta. I think it's mainly theta, but normal thinking mind is more beta, alpha, beta, and then when you get closer to the theta, I mean, it's all kind of a mix. It's never really...
And then after that is delta, where you're into sleep and death. Yeah. So, okay, we'll continue.
Oh, okay.
So were you with Stephen when you did this?
Oh, no. My partner had done the training in, I think, 92, something, so that, once again, is almost 10 years ago. And we've picked up, you pick up methods. This requires often methodology and consecration. So we had the desire to go out and initiate contact, and we went out on the beach and we did a little meditation, and we had a flashlight, and
you're going to beam them?
Yes, beam, yeah, sure.
Here I am.
Yeah, signal, here I am. And we saw a light, and this was some kind of craft. We don't know what it looked like, but it came right through the fog bank, which is not a conventional craft. This would not be a conventional craft. My partner knows a lot about vehicles in the sky. So it went down the coast, and in fact, I ran down the coast after it. But and the next night, we went out again to initiate contact, and it came back the opposite way. And once again, this was not a conventional craft, and we don't know what it is, but we call that our sighting. It was a UFO of some nature.
Was it a single light, Janet, or was
absolutely
it multiple lights?
Just a single light. And
I know I saw one in Colorado.
Okay.
Had a light, just to come out of a conference, and there was this bright light over the trees, and I started walking toward it, but I couldn't get there because there was too many trees, and but I saw it there, and we got in a car and tried to chase it, and of course we couldn't find it then. It was gone. But I thought, wow, that is just too darn close and too darn bright.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't be surprised. The more you get into these kinds of ideas, the more likely you are to, you're opening yourself up to entering the space-time reality where these beings hang out, say. So I think certain people are beacons, so to speak, that we can attract that energy.
Do you think that you have to have the intention when you go out, the intention that you are going purposely? Some people have the encounters with them, though, that it's not necessarily intentional.
Right. There is that, too. And then, too, you have to think, well, on what level is the intentionality acting or not? Because many times we wake up to our relationship with these beings. In other words, we're not always conscious of it we're not always conscious that we made an agreement to come here, you see, and to connect with them.
Well, okay, now that's a whole other thing, Janet.
Yeah, we're off on another road
here.
Yeah,
we are, because now you are making the statement that we came here or planted here on Earth to have that connection with whoever planted us here.
Okay, well, back to the near-death field. So that's where UFOlogy can learn a lot and benefit a lot from connecting, interfacing with the near-death field. When you have near-death experiences, one of the things that people, that is very typical or very common, is that people go through a life review. They may go through a life review, not always, but you have a sense also of the future sometimes of your life. And so you get to see that you are, in essence, this is a setup. This is a setup right now so that we come to this dimension, and we come with a veil, okay? And we're here to live in this dimension fully, so we can't remember what's on the other side.
So you're saying the veil is something that that conceals the other side?
Yes.
And so when they talk about piercing the veil, you're going back into the knowingness? Is that what that means?
Absolutely. So when they're over on that side, they can remember, oh, I chose this particular life, or I chose this particular situation in order to learn. And we have to forget in order to learn.
Okay, Janet, I like that a lot, because I'm not sure that people understand that their purpose is to learn and to grow and to evolve.
If that's right.
I don't think that they know that. I don't know that you have to go through, okay, if you don't want to learn, you're not going to evolve. You're not going to grow. And we've done a lot of shows on personal development and so forth. And for myself, I know that I have to have new experiences in order to expand my own awareness so that I can do my shows, for heaven's sake, I have to be aware and know. But I'm excited about that because I'm growing and I'm learning. I have to learn to grow. And a lot of people don't understand that they're here. They ask, why am I here? Why am I on this planet? What is my purpose in life? And you're saying it is to learn and to grow?
Well, it's easy to forget when we're in physical bodies. See, that's the thing. When you're on the other side in a near-death experience, you're out of your body. So you don't have the physicality. The physicality, in a way, it's the ultimate.
It's a limitation.
Yes, but it is the ultimate situation for learning, because we have to take that into these cells, into this very dense material body. So it's easy to forget why we're here. So people can spend a whole lifetime trying to find, asking that question, why am I here? Why am I here? Well, the answer is all around you. I had a wonderful teacher in psychology, Arnold Mindell, who used to say that every moment is trying to enlighten you.
Oh, I love it.
Every moment is trying to bring you enlightenment. Well, whether you're in your body or out, we go to the mystics and we go to people that have gone to the extreme experiences in order to learn from that. That's part of my work is to look at those people that have gone to the very edges of reality and what they have to say about it. I have to say that the most extreme population I've worked with now, the most enlightened population, are those that have had both the near-death and the UFO encounter.
Interesting.
Very interesting, very interesting.
So you had some charts that showed the stats on people who've had the UFO experience, ones who have had near-death experience, and then you have your own,
yes,
which is a combination.
Yes, yes. So I'm adding a new population to the 10-year-old study that Kenneth Ring did, and that's called, he wrote about it in the book called The Omega Project. So he had the control groups, and then he had the UFO and the near-death populations, and then I'm adding the population of people that have had both. And I'm giving them the same questionnaire, and I'm doing both a statistical analysis, and then so that's qualitative or quantitative, and then I'm doing the qualitative interviews as well.
So what you're doing is you're just legitimizing this whole thing.
I'm sure as heck trying to.
I think it's fascinating, Janet. I mean, that was one reason why I wanted to have you on here, because I think so many times that people look at this as a woo-woo thing, and that it's simply a figment of the imagination, overactive imagination, drugs. I just think that many people put it in that category. And what I like about what you're doing is you're removing it from that that kind of a area of thinking about these subjects and bringing it right into the front, so that and legitimizing it. So you're just really saying this is real.
Well, I'm a psychotherapist, and one of the things we do is basically, we have to rule out mental illness, of course, and that's the thing, is there have been studies that have shown that people that have UFO encounters are not suffering from mental illness. So I didn't want to repeat those studies.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
because they could have aberrations in their mind and might be considered insane when what their experiences are quite valid.
So when I sit down with someone, that's the first thing that we sort of have to rule out the mental illnesses and make sure that the person is an authentic, relating authentically to their experience. And one of the things with the UFO encounter experience, and I'm sure you're aware because this is reported a lot in the media, we have a lot of trauma that's reported in the media, but the trauma that goes along with, or that sometimes accompanies these experiences, is number one, it provides the psychologist with a way to, it's sort of a barometer. Is what this person, are they reporting authentically? Is their emotional body reporting authentically what the experience itself is? Okay, so in other words, when you look at being in a different energy field, which the beings are, and you're taken out of your conceptual framework, which you are, and we don't have the cultural support for this, okay? So your framework, it's sort of like taking a cat to the vet. This is how I look at it. The cat is sometimes traumatized by that. You take a human being out of their home into deep space or into another dimension of reality where time and space do not function in the same way. That can have a very strong traumatic element. So as a psychotherapist,
Very shocking.
yes, yes. So as a psychotherapist, does that person relate to that experience? Are their emotions authentic and carry that sense of validity? That's one of the things Harvard psychiatrist John Mack, that's one of the things he found.
Very well known for his research with this.
And that's what, one of the things that convinced him of the authenticity of the people's reports was that, the emotional authenticity relating to the trauma. Okay, so when you get somebody in that state, and then of course you want to rule out, is that caused by childhood trauma or human abuse? So you want to rule that out too. So these are the things that a psychotherapist does in order to be convinced. Otherwise, without that training, if you just read something in the paper, if you don't have that, if you don't talk to people that have actually had experiences, you might well think they're making it up. Okay.
How do you find your participants in this research project?
Well, a number of ways. I have a website, first of all, and I go to...
Do people contact you?
Yes, people do. For the most part, there are some websites that I've made a call for research subjects.
Oh, really?
Okay. Oh, yes. And let's see. Oh, I know. One of my best cases was brought to me by a peer, a licensed clinical social worker on the Olympic Peninsula, is working with someone, has a client. This is a really interesting case. We have someone that is actually trained in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, and he functions as a monk. He was working with her to process and integrate his experiences, and I got one very good interview with that client, her client, I should say. So you put the word out with peers, you put the word out on the internet. Whenever I speak, such as, I would love to have a few people come through this show. So right now I have about 20 people in the study, and like I said, I've only been doing it for about 5 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like you're on a roll. You just haven't had to go out on the street corner and say, hey, I'm looking for, and you don't have anybody on the corner and say, I'm looking for somebody who's doing research either.
No. In fact, by the time I get done going through this set of questionnaires and figuring out if I can interview them in person, I have my hands full. Let me tell you, I have a backlog at this point.
So do you start off asking them all kinds of questions about their experiences, and having a combination of these two
Mm-hmm.
is very different than what Kenneth Ring did, right? He separated them.
He separated them. There were some people that did have the overlap in his study, but he did not note that. In other words, he didn't create a separate group of those people. Mm-hmm. So what I tend to do is I have people write up their experiences. So they generally are separate. So what was your UFO or close encounter or multiple? I have many people with multiple experiences. And what was your near death? And I do have some people that I have one woman that has had more than 3 near-death experiences. So I have them write up their experiences, and then if I can, I like to interview people in person.
I would think that would be the best, Janet, because you read their energy field while they're doing this.
Mm-hmm. But if I can't, then I have a wonderful detailed set of questionnaires, and I can snail mail them, you see, and then that's good for just the statistical research.
Yeah.
Okay. I did want to mention, I do have one person who had, during the near-death experience, he actually had alien beings okay, in the near-death experience, and that is very, very rare. So I knew right off the bat I was on the right track, because Phyllis Atwater had interviewed thousands of people, and I think she had only come across one or two. And my very first interview was with this, and this is again, it's the monk in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage who had, during his near-death experience, he was ushered through the light by two grays.
Oh, how interesting.
Very interesting. And his experience, it gets better. I mean,
does.
this is his experience of himself. And you know, when you're, like I said before, you're in an out-of-body state, so your sense of your body may be more or less discrete. Like some people are more aware of their body, and other people are more like an amorphous cloud. But his sense of himself, his sense of his physical body, was that he himself was a gray.
That he himself was a gray.
He himself
so
was a
he
gray.
was sort of with his buddies then.
He was with, yes, absolutely. He was with his buddies. And then you have to think, well, you know, I'm wearing a suit. You know, I'm wearing the Janet suit, you know, and my partner wears a Tom suit. And he wears, we'll call him Dwayne, a Dwayne suit. When that suit
That's
came
a persona,
off,
right?
Persona, right. When that suit came off and he went into the light, he was not human. You know, so you have to wonder, who are we? Where do we come from? I mean, these are just our material bodies and not our essence.
All right, Janet. Okay, now I can appreciate what you're saying in this regard, but what happens to spirit? Where does spirit fit into this?
Spirit is well, it depends. If you're talking about the near death,
Yes.
they're much more. They are. Well, think of it in terms of layers. Okay, layers are dimensions. When you're in the state of enlightenment, where time and space collapse, you are one with everything, and there is no individual self. Okay?
That'd be spirit?
You could call that spirit. I'm trying to think what people, the heart of creation, you know, pure energy. Okay, so we live somewhere up here, you know, in this dimension of reality, and the beings that travel in other dimensions are more in the intermediate phases. Okay,
Interdimensionally.
Yes, and so when there are people in the Betty Andreasen Lucca, who I first mentioned, that first case, she was taken out of her body, brought to the door to the light, or the one, as the beings told her. And when she went through that door, once again, her form became a light being. Okay, so she
was transforming or transmuting right there.
Right, and so she was not only out of her body, but her form became, you know, like you wouldn't see the hair, you wouldn't see, you know, it was just, you would see a being of light. The grays that were alongside of her, beings of light. The elders or Nordics or whatever you want to call them, another species, were beings of light. They all became light beings, and one can imagine that even that discernment as an individual being was lost, even as you go into the heart of creation. Okay, so who are we? We're just living up here on this
I hear you,
level.
Janet. Now, some of my viewers may even say, well, what about when I dream?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in my body. I'm going someplace else. With, you know, where am I going? Am I having these kinds of experiences in my dream? So how do you handle that?
Okay, beautiful. So once again, we're up here in our thinking minds. When we fall asleep, okay, well then reality becomes a lot less solid and stable at that point, and many people have altered state experiences. I had one wonderful woman in my study, once again, UFO and near death, and she had a precognitive dream that seemed to presage the 9/11 tragedies in New York. Okay, so in that dream reality, she was we're
tapping into another piece of energy there.
Exactly. So where past, present, and future are more they're not linear, right? And so she received images that were very very indicative of what happened in New York. So dreaming reality is, so we're getting closer to the heart of creation, right, in these other states of consciousness, which brings up the need, the absolute need that we all have. I mean, you do it through your program, but we all have this there's a practice here, a consecration to opening ourselves up to altered states, to integrating those then into our daily lives, to have some kind of spiritual practice that can help expand our consciousness so that we can begin to, so that we can help the shift that many people, and once again, these experiencers believe we are on the edge of a major shift in consciousness on this planet.
Okay, there's also going to be some of my viewers who are going to say, well, what about these people taking drugs?
Oh boy.
And, mind-altering drugs, and yet many people who are taking pharmaceutical prescriptive drugs can also be having some experiences. I mean, I don't think that it's, confined to any one modality.
No. I've seen, I have had experience with people that have used a lot of drugs, not in my study, but that have opened themselves up in that way, and I have to say that it is very difficult then to integrate into this culture and this material reality.
So what you're saying is once they become so open, then they are misfits in our traditional paradigm that we're living in right at this moment?
Well, I wouldn't use the word misfit, but it can make it much harder.
I'm just making that, sort of as a drastic denotation of what we're talking about.
It's not something I recommend doing. Let's put it like that. I mean, I have met people that before they come to me, that have either lived through the 60s or the 70s. I mean, there's ecstasy now, on the streets, and so people, it's been an avenue for growth, but one that can be very easily misused and abused.
Right, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because many people use those drugs to have these kinds of experiences. You know what I mean? They purposely do it, just because they want to get out of this reality. It's almost escapism.
Yeah, well, that's not something we recommend.
So you don't find any of these people who are telling you about their experiences are coming from that position of wanting to escape this reality and testing the other reality. Is this something that is a true experience for them?
Escape. It's interesting. I asked everybody in my study to write about how their sense of material physical reality and fitting into this culture has changed as a result of their experiences. And one woman wrote, now she gets information or she does interspecies communication while she's doing housework, like vacuuming, right? Okay, because you're sort of in
kind of an alpha.
Yes, right. And so she said that her sense was that she came here with a purpose, but that it's a heck of a lot harder once you're here to do it. When you're in the physical body, it's harder to do it when you're here than it probably was when she agreed to do it, right? So in some sense, there's like almost there's a feeling that they can connect with these other realities, and but they're here in this one to experience this material reality. So they don't necessarily want to escape, but it's more, how can you integrate the two? How can you be a functioning human being in this culture, in this Western culture, which denies these experiences, right? And yet, be talking with aliens while you're vacuuming. So it's only with great, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of consecration, to being here. in order to do this. So that's really what I help people with as a psychotherapist.
Yeah, this is the old cereal that we used to have, daytime cereal of what was it? My Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh,
and was that the title of it? Where it was a very popular serial of shows on television, and she was flipping in and out of these realities. So she was living a three-dimensional reality, but then she was also one of these other beings that could do other kinds of things.
You might be talking about Bewitched.
Maybe
we've had a number of series.
Maybe it was Bewitched.
I mean, we do these things on TV for a reason. It
was a number of years ago, but I think it was pretty popular and was on for a very long time.
Oh yes. We concretize it in those terms, with these TV serials. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a current one, but they're talking about very real dimensions that we just in this culture we prefer to think that it's fiction. We prefer to think it's fiction and just watch TV, but these people are saying it's not, that it's a very real aspect of their lives.
Do you have any idea what the percentage would be if you were to poll the whole populace of the United States?
No, I absolutely don't.
I mean, it would be interesting if you come up in your research with some kind of a model that would be predictive of the amount that was really going on.
Yeah, it's too soon right now for me. I'm just...
Well, yeah, 5 months isn't enough. But, I mean, it'd be interesting if you find a correlate there.
Oh, yes, because they have done some surveys to see what percentage of the population has had near death.
That's more popular.
Yes.
And more readily accepted.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, because we have people like Kenneth Ring, and there was a very highly credentialed group of people that decided to take it seriously, and thanks to them, it is now, we have shows like Touched by an Angel and things like that. So we're getting there. I mean,
It's interesting. So what do you plan to do with this research when you get it culminated?
Culminated? I don't know.
I mean, when you at least get to the point where you have a body, where you have a body of information.
I think I might look at doing a journal article, publishing. I'm certainly doing speaking engagements. I think it's important for people to know the ways in which these people have been accelerated, and this is a word I use, accelerated.
Right. We haven't even really gotten into that yet,
right.
So we need to talk about that. But go ahead, finish that thought.
So right now I'm just doing speaking engagements and letting people know, giving them a different model than the alien abduction model right now for the close encounter phenomenon. And I would like to do a book. I would like to do a book and have some of the more striking cases showcased, so to speak, and because I have some truly exceptional people in my study. And
do they come from all walks of life, Janet?
Yes, I would say so. I have, the first group I had, when I looked at them, they were extremely highly functioning. Okay, so I had business people, I had clairvoyant healers, I had people in the healthcare field, I had people that had written professional articles for professional journals. So I had a very highly functioning group in the first batch. Now I haven't done the statistics on the second batch, but let me see there. Where were we going with that one?
Well, that was just a side thing. But I want to know about how these people are better functioning as a result of these experiences. How it has helped them through their accelerated awareness to become more functional here in this three-dimensional reality.
Okay. Well, when you give these the set of questionnaires, and this is all self-report, by the way, so I don't have any objective physiological tests. That's beyond my means to do that at this point. But we ask people what their life values are, we ask them, there's a Kundalini scale. So, for example, do people relate to energy coursing through their body? Yes, almost 100% of them do. They open up to energy more readily. They have electromagnetic or electronic sensitivities. So, for example, they may have trouble wearing watches or with appliances or computers because their field, their physiological field, is altered.
Okay, now when you're talking about the field, we're talking about the electromagnetic field that is around every living organism. And the human organism, I mean, we do have, I'm sure we have some people in our audience who don't know what that is. We always have new audience all the time coming to the show. And so that is a field of energy that's around our cells, every cell, and the whole, of course, we're a cell too collectively with the masses. But, and it is emitting and receiving information.
Yes. And these people are much more receptive. And so, so they report a higher degree of disturbance in, but also the sensitivity is very positive. So for example, they report being more psychic or having access to healing gifts. Some of the people feel that they can, how can I say, transmit energy, say, with their hands. Okay, so you have healers, you have psychics, you have, clairvoyant. These kinds of tendencies will become enhanced. Let's see. We have the life value change is very, very important. This is where a person becomes more spiritual, more concerned with the environment and the collective rather than just their individual self. Okay, so their sense of spirituality is greatly enhanced, and this is not necessarily, doesn't make them necessarily more religious, although they may find a spiritual path, but it makes...
I don't connote those to be the same anyway.
Right. I just want to make that point, that they become more spiritual, and they don't believe necessarily that there is any one true faith, but that there's the heart of the faith, that there's a heart of truth that all faiths are trying to approach. So they have that greater expanded awareness to be able to comprehend that. Okay, and they have more concern for their fellow individuals and fellow human beings. They have a greater sense of self-value or self-esteem.
They have more compassion.
Across the board, it seems to accelerate them in terms of bringing them into a higher state of consciousness and mental functioning, I should say. They can more easily grasp the whole, so they tend to be more holistic thinkers.
Now, are they having trouble functioning in three-dimensional reality at all?
Well, I would say that the group that I have looked at so far, like I said, is very highly functioning.
So, in other words, are they bringing new talents, new experiences to whatever they're involved with?
Absolutely. You see,
so they're able to enrich other people in the doing.
Yes, and the thing is, when you have these experiences, it's not just a near death where you go into the other side and you come back. But when you have the close encounters on top of that, so they're having more...
Oh, you got an overlay.
Yeah, you have an overlap, and so there's more of a sense of daily intrusion, okay, into your life of these other dimensions. Like one person said, the veil between the realities is a lot thinner, so she can more readily pick up voices, odors, just energies.
Reading auras.
Absolutely. So when that veil is thinner, let's see. When that veil is thinner, and your question was about, are they more?
Yeah, their contribution from their experience. What are they bringing to the table as a result of their experience?
Because of the intrusion into their daily life, they tend to have livelihoods that express this kind of overlap. In other words, we have people that work as clairvoyant healers. People like the monk in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage. He's a healthcare worker, but his spiritual life is paramount, okay, on a daily basis. So their daily life has to be integrated because they're having intrusions, frequently.
From the aliens, you mean? They're having, when you're saying intrusions?
Intrusions, it could be, call it from the subtle realm. I like that, the subtle field.
Okay, now if we had somebody who was, say, a president of a company, and they had this kind of an experience.
Oh, boy.
That would be really very interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes.
Because they would go back to their desk and may look at life totally different than what they had before.
And I have one person in the study is basically, when she had near death starting at the age of 10 in the context of domestic violence, okay? I have 2 women actually in the study that had near deaths in the context of domestic violence. And when she came back, she began to be able to tell when people were telling the truth or not, you see. She could tell that their thoughts were different than what came out of the words that came out of their mouth. So you can imagine being the head of a company, right, and you're becoming more, psychic, okay, so-called psychic, right? So you're getting hits off of your peers, your business partners more readily. And that's been described just by people with near death.
Right, but Janet, every one of us is psychic. We just don't know that we
are. Right. These people know it. That's the big difference.
That's the difference.
They can access it more readily. So yes, it's like the veil is thinner. Many people seem to be in a little box, and they don't know it. Okay, and they don't know that they can step outside.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of people are really caught in this three-dimensional reality, thinking that this is all there is.
Yes.
And they're dealing with life situations on a daily basis, and some of them are traumatic, and some are not. And they're juggling. They're juggling this reality. And some people are really very stressed out over this. And it could be that this may not be exactly in connection with your research project, but when we're in so much stress, we're really blocking the energies. And so even if we had the intent to connect, say, with an alien being, we would have difficulty because we have a shield. It's not a veil, it's a shield.
Right. Exactly. That's a good word. A good example is sitting right here with you. It's kind of, it's an edge for me to do any kind of an interview in the first place. And I made a contract with myself to confront my fears, to try to remain awake, in the midst of my fear. That's the heart of how you get through any trauma that's associated with the, alien encounter experience as well. It's just, if you think of what causes you the greatest fear in your life, and then go for it with consciousness, with awareness, with love, as much as you can. And you can see then that shield or that veil, you can start to play with that. It doesn't have to be so confining. So I know I feel a bit sometimes like I'm in this box and I'm doing this interview. Oh my gosh, am I, can people understand what I'm saying? I'm in my own little reality here. And then at times, I feel a little more that our realities are, that it's permeable, that the veil is not so solid.
But Janet, we also understand that fear is nothing but false evidence appearing real.
Is that, shall I quote you on that? That's good. Yes, absolutely.
So the fear that we have is just a figment of our imagination.
And the interesting thing is when, I should mention at this point my book, which is on people that have had spiritual awakenings in the context of the encounter phenomena. Sacred Encounters is the title. And I take a look at people that have gone into enlightenment, and one of the things they say about fear is that you do not need to conquer fear. Fear does not need to go away. After all, where could it possibly go? Everything is all right here anyway. Where if you enter that state, you are one. Okay, so you don't need to conquer fear. You just you learn how to not be overwhelmed by it, not be subsumed entirely by it. You stay awake in the midst of fear. Okay, so you don't walk out of the room of love, even though you may be terrified. I had one incredible, absolutely exquisite woman that I worked with. She was a former client that came to process and integrate the experiences, and Haley, and she came to me with post-traumatic stress from being with the beings at a very early age, and she made a consecration to working through that and remaining conscious during the interactions. And she did. It took just over 2 years, 2 years of work, and then she took 2 years off integrating, and the beings came, and she remained conscious in the midst of her terror and was able to send out love, and those beings levitated her up 5 feet. She could see them below her. There were some physical interventions during their visit. Then they kept bringing her back to consciousness. No, we're not done yet. No, we're not done yet. And they sent her telepathically an image of a being, and he was dressed like a college professor, like with a tweed jacket with suede.
Stereotypical.
Yes, yes. So we're looking at the interspecies communication. You see, they're coming together with us. Okay, with humanity, and this being jumped in the air with his fist in the air, jumping for joy. We did it. We did it.
Wow.
And they sent incredible feelings of love to her because she had managed to work through her terror.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Very fascinating. So I say is like for each of us, working with fear is one of the most enlightened things you can do. Not working to alleviate it, but just to remain conscious in its midst. And you're opening the door to interspecies communication.
Right. Okay, Janet. Was there, this is fascinating, was there a thread of continuity in the quality of the experiences of your people who are participating in this? Was there a message that they were receiving?
Oh, wow.
And what were they?
Oh, boy, this is so wonderful. The things people told me and wrote me, some of them felt very much protected, loved, by the beings that they were in communication with. They believe that we're, we are on the edge of transformation, you see, on this planet, collectively. And the beings are here to aid in that. Okay, so these people are, in a sense, they're the forerunners, okay, of the consciousness that is coming for everyone. Consensus reality will change, you see.
We could use a little help right now.
Yeah. Well, we're getting it. We are getting it. We're absolutely getting it. I mean, we may not be fully conscious of that, but we're getting it, you see. So their messages have to do with entering a community. Oh, there was one woman who, her near death was in the context of a car accident. When she was in rehab, she was in a hospital for 3 months. She was dead on arrival. Incredible story. Her contact came with these beings when she was in the rehab hospital, and she was up late at night in pain, and she saw through the window of the hospital a light, and it was a good deals away, but as she watched it doing things that no conventional craft would do, this light seemed to be aware of her consciousness and came closer, dropped down to eye level, and she felt a communication, and they said, we are here to help you, her individually, and also to help the planet get more in alignment, okay, with the other planets. Okay, so she felt them in the next few days. They altered her vibration and aided in her healing, in her physical healing. Although she couldn't see them, right? They were there in invisibly working with her. That's what she felt. That night, she also believes that she was taken. Her memories are mostly sensory. That is to say, she doesn't remember things in a narrative yet, but she just has hits. Oh, she remembers Whitley Strieber-like beings. She remembers being taken in a field of light, a lot of work with the light. And then the next thing she knows, she woke up in bed, and she didn't remember getting into bed. So there's some missing time there.
Interesting. Wow. Well, Janet,
Oh, are we about up?
We are.
Well,
we've had our time here with the alien presence.
We've been far out.
We have been far out, and it's been fascinating. And we'll just, when you get some more research and have more to share with our viewers, we'll have to do this again.
I've really enjoyed it.
It's been fun, and thanks so much for bringing all your information to us. It's really been fascinating.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. Okay, and to my viewers, I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in, and hope you'll join me next time when we explore yet another avenue of our universe and our relationship to it. I'm Elaine Smitha.